Well, hi, welcome back, everyone. In this video, I would like to start off with a story. Let's say that there's a guy. He has generalized panic and anxiety disorder. And he keeps it pretty well under control. He takes the medication that is prescribed to him or her. It could be a her in the situation, doesn't matter, he or she. And then goes out and interacts with society. Now, I'm going to present three, well, maybe not three, maybe it will be three, sort of different approaches from society people tend to take towards this. Let's say he runs into a New Ager, and they tell him, well, you need to stop taking the medications, go to yoga, change your diet. And this person knows those things will not work. Those things work for people who experience anxiety or a state of panic due to outside stimulus that is not allocated to a actual mood disorder. So he knows that he or she will know that doesn't work. Let's say then he runs into somebody that is not from the pharmacological community and runs into somebody from the medical community. Runs into a nurse and talks about how the pharmacological community and the medical community are having a debate over whether or not which group should be in control of monitoring and looking at people who have generalized panic and anxiety disorder. This happened a while ago, by the way, that debate that I was talking about. This is due to the fact that in the pharmacological community, a addictive substance, a narcotic, and it's part of the benzodiazepines, is generally prescribed to people with panic and anxiety disorder. This is supposedly habit forming, and people who go on this medication are probably looking at a lifetime of taking this medication. Now, the medical side doesn't like to do that. They do not like to prescribe on a long-term basis medications that are narcotics that are potentially addictive. They don't like to do this for a long-term basis. They only like to do it on a short-term basis. So this person asks the nurse, well, okay, what do they do when they're having a panic attack? And, they're getting the tunnel vision. They've lost sensation in their limbs. They have the impending sense of terror and doom. They think they're going to die, although the rational mind says otherwise, and feel like they are slipping from the grasps of reality. They feel like they are no longer making sense anymore. They are being irrational, illogical, insane, for lack of a better word. That's not really a technical term. That's a term that many people will understand, though. And the nurse says, well, just let them pass out because then they won't have a panic or an anxiety attack anymore if they're passed out. Even though that person knows that's not true because they themselves have had a panic and anxiety attack while sleeping. So that's the second situation. So this person goes to work, professes that they have this disorder. And they say, well, that's fine. We'll work with you. But they don't give this person leeway with sick time or extra break times or anything of the nature. No extra accommodations beyond what the average person receives. So it's almost like not even acknowledging that this person even has a disorder to begin with, which would be generalized panic and anxiety disorder. Do you understand the overall message that is being sent here? It's like saying, we understand that you have panic and anxiety disorder, but could you have it more quietly? This is not possible. This is a problem. And it's not just with panic and anxiety disorder either. There are many, many aspects within society, roles that we take in society, where we are asked to be fake. And I want to look at if this is healthy, not healthy, or maybe not really healthy, but not really unhealthy either. So let's take a look at that. So here I have laid out a diagram of this, of what I'm talking about. Now, the first two, actually, the third one should be the one in the middle, but when I was plotting it out, I just didn't put it that way. But there are things that can be faked, but oughtn't be, such as liking something you do not like within the context of social norms, the need, want, desire for stability, being unhappy, overhype, things that are put into in a grandiose way that actually have negative and or challenging aspects to them. And then we have the category things that can't be faked but are encouraged to be within the context of societal norms. Depression, anxiety, especially disorders, pain, bipolar type 1, 2, and 3, phobias, medical ailments that cannot be seen. And then the middle ground, things that can be faked that are said they oughtn't be, but are encouraged anyway. Emotions, personality traits, the white lie, attraction, love, lust, and romantic love. Opinions, things that we hold to be universally true, but are discouraged to be expressed. An example, a man who is window shopping. Go ahead. I can't. It won't let me do it. There should be an end quote there. Window shopping. Although they are in a relationship, professes to their attractions. This is like the, Mom, where do babies come from? We know where babies come from, so we fake that. All right, so those are the three categories, and these are some examples, but I kind of wanted to talk about each category. So the first category, things that can be faked, but ought not be. So these are things like when something is like really, really troubling you, or like you're unhappy, things that you don't like, and they make you feel really uncomfortable. But for some reason, many pressures in society will tell you to fake it. They may not say fake it, and we've all heard the mantra, fake it until you make it. I'm not so sure that I agree with that slogan. I think that does more harm than it does good. I think that might be helpful for, I think that's something that a motivational speaker should use, not somebody who's actually in psychology or neurology. I don't think there is a faking it until you make it in many different aspects. I think that's something you do when you have the jitters about something or some kind of stage fright, fake it till you make it to overcome these hurdles and battles. But there are things that are inherent that you cannot just dismiss, that are, you being fake about it isn't going to fix the problem, and just sort of sweeps the problem under the rug, and it's building up over time. For instance, at many, many companies that we work for, we are told that we have to put this company on a pedestal and pretend that they are the greatest thing to ever exist. There's no problem with them, no problem whatsoever. Despite how unhappy you are at your job, you have to maintain this fake personification so that you can continue to get a paycheck. Because let's be honest, money is monetary, or it is it is basically the equivalency of resources. It's how you put a house or a roof over your head. It's how you put food on your table. And so we are forced to do this. We are forced to pretend to be happy even when we're not. We are forced to pretend to have an alliance or an allegiance even though we do not. We are forced to pretend that we feel stability even though we do not. We are forced to pretend to like something, even though we do not. And even though somebody says, let's say your boss comes up to you and says, oh, we're going to give this job to you. It's going to be really great. It's going to change things. I think that you're the right person for the job. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Basically throws you a huge sales pitch, a huge fucking sales pitch. But, the thing that they're not telling you is all the extra additions that come with it that make it overly challenging or a negative thing that maybe you don't want to deal with because you feel unstable in your world. Now, when you feel a sense of instability within your world, that can trickle right down to the very consciousness of your being. If you do not feel stability within your environment, you will not feel stability within your mind. And this can create anxiety, panic, it can create depression, it can create a whole onslaught of very unwarranted, like the sense of utter defeat, for one. But I think one thing that would help with this is if we just stop pretending, they pull down the facade, pull down the charade, stop it. And why can't we admit to ourselves? And that goes for everyone. It's like, look, I'm not happy to be here, but I will do the best that I can. Why can't we admit that we do things because we have to? Why do we have to pretend that we enjoy doing them even when we do not? Why? What point and purpose does that serve? We all know about this. Anyone who says that they don't understand this, I'll call you a liar. So why can't we be honest? Is really the crux of it. Is that to be fake is to be lacking in honesty. And so now I move on to this sort of second category. Things that cannot be faked, but are encouraged to be. This is probably the most dangerous part of this notion, in that somebody who suffers from depression, they're told to fake it till they make it. This is not why that mantra was invented. That mantra was invented basically as a pep talk. That is not going to help somebody with depression, with major depressive disorder. Anxiety, I gave you an analogy for that. Pain, we are told to suppress that. It's like, let's say that you have a kidney infection. All right, so you probably should be at home in bed drinking a lot of water, because the thing is that you're going to be peeing blood. You're going to be in an extraordinary amount of pain. But for some reason, many aspects of society will tell you to basically suck it up. Tell you get over it, that it's not that big of a deal. Come on, you just take your meds. It is the opposite effect in many instances of mental ailments. In many instances, with mental ailments, they often try to get you to do things that are outside of actual medical science and do homeopathic stuff. Drink chamomile, do yoga, breathe, put your hands over your head, things like that. But when it comes to, like, when you say to somebody that you have a pain inside your body that is not a physical characteristic like a broken arm, they tell you to just take your meds and shut up. Never mind that the medication itself is going to put more strain and stress on the kidney, and that if you have to stay awake by drinking caffeine and to stay energetic and all that sort of stuff, that's going to put more strain and actually even prolong the kidney infection. Why do we do this? This is very, very dangerous. Or why would we tell somebody with anxiety or panic and anxiety disorder that they should just, go ahead and pass out and that would be acceptable, never mind that, this person will seem irrational when going through the episode, probably extremely embarrassing for the individual, displayed in public. It's not private at that point. It's displayed in front of a lot of people where they're acting way out of character and they're not making sense and they're collapsing on the floor in a very terrifying and frightening event according to the primal sense of the brain. The rational sense of the brain is trying to tell you, hey, it's just a panic and anxiety attack. You'll pass out and you'll be fine, but that's not how you act when you are going through a panic or an anxiety attack. Or even bipolar disorder, it's just like you cannot have a mood swing that throws you into a temper tantrum. They often tell you need to get your mood under control. Really? You're telling a person with a mood disorder that they need to get their mood under control. You need to pretend that you don't have bipolar type 1, 2, or 3. That doesn't make any sense. That's like saying you have bipolar type 1, 2, or 3, ergo, you don't have bipolar type 1, 2, or 3. This doesn't make sense. To tell a person who has bipolar type 1, 2, or 3 that they need to control their erratic mood swings is impossible. You are asking them to do something that is an impossible feat. You are basically asking them to lie. You are asking them to fake it, which ultimately it cannot be faked. Neither can the phobias, nor the medical ailments, nor the pain, nor the anxiety, nor the depression, or even fatigue, for that matter. As much as they tell you it must be faked, or to lie about it, it's not something you can, and it's not something that can be hidden. Not in this context. All right, now we're moving on to the sort of middle ground, things that can be faked, that are said they ought not be, but are encouraged anyway, like emotions, personality traits, the white lie. So the example that I gave is, very interesting, because it's like, it's that person that, talks openly about how they view things. They're like, oh, that person's really attractive. It's like, hold on, aren't you married? Isn't that sexual harassment? These are things that may or may not come with harm. And it's all context matters in these situations. But the truth of the matter is that we are capable of being pair bonded while lusting after another, while having feelings of romantic love for another, and while having feelings of um, lust, all at the same time. We have discovered this through neurology. This is not a social science, this is a STEM science now. We looked at the parts of the brain that control these things. We know that human beings are capable of all of it. So it's really kind of a social faux pas to express this, but I don't really know that it causes any problems if you don't. Or, like, let's say that you have utter contempt for a person. They irritate you. Does it do any good to express that irritation that'll make them irritable or to tear them down? Keep in mind, this is in a social setting. I mean, I don't see that does any good or bad. I mean, sure, there can be good that comes from it. There can be bad that comes from it. But ultimately, altogether, it's like, does it need to be expressed? Maybe not in a professional environment, maybe in a more social environment. These things change. This is the context matters. Like, it's that thing where, like, somebody insults you and you decide to be the bigger person by just smiling and laughing, going, "Ha, yeah, touche." Those are the types of fakes that I don't think these really cause a lot of problems. These two are the areas that I'm focused on. That I think that they do present inherent problems. It's just like when you want to express how uncomfortable you are with something, and really, like, let's say that you need stability in your life because you're having basically a mental breakdown. How well suited is society at accommodating this? I'd say not very well, considering that we're telling the person to fake it. Now, there are other aspects that I want to go over about being fake. But I think these two are extremely dangerous. And there's something that I think society needs to address at some point. It's something that we need to look into, because what we're asking people to do is sort of antithetical to the human experience. And it's creating a lot more problems than it's fixing. It's creating problems where there oughtn't be any. There shouldn't be any. Creating our own problems with this. I just said the same thing in multiple ways there in a row. Sorry about that. Alright, so the last thing that I'd like to add, of course, we all know about what fake means pertaining to a person, being a fake plastic bitch. They're backstabby, they pretend to be nice to your face, then they turn around and they talk shit, rather than just being honest with you. But the thing that I find more concerning is things like, let's say that a person is in an adulterous relationship and the adultery is ripping them up and tearing them to shreds inside. And they are expected, this comes from 1950s conformity, they are expected to withhold that in because, let's say it's the father that's the breadwinner of the household, and the female that has absolutely no occupational skills whatsoever and no way out of the situation, and tries to pretend to constantly be happy and delightful, although internally she's dealing with a huge mental struggle with depression, anxiety, fear, sadness, defeat, sorrow, all kinds of things, all kinds of negative emotions. And instead of expressing those in a healthy manner that would be appropriate in that situation by saying, hey, I know you're being adulterous and fuck you for doing that. I hate you for it. And this is just tearing me up. Instead of doing that, she drowns her sorrows in alcohol. One should ask themselves, is that healthy? My answer to that would be no. But it's not just adultery, though, is it? It's like maybe you took a promotion at your job and you're completely unhappy with it, but you can't tell your boss because you're not being a team player or whatever, but you're absolutely, completely fucking miserable. You go home every day, you want to die. Your social network has been completely shattered. You're completely taken out of your comfort zone, and you just want to go back to doing what it was that you were doing, but you can't express it. Is that healthy? Why are we putting that kind of stress on a person? What for? Why can't they go back to doing what it is that they were doing without feeling scrutinized? Instead, we are putting them in a disposition where they are at odds with how they actually feel. Food for thought. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Yes, this was an actual philosophy video. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell button on any channel you're subscribed to. And I support the idea of choices, not one's ability to impose one's own will on others against their own will. Be yourself and think for yourself. There is such a thing as being overly skeptical. That does exist. When there is no objective truth, you've probably gone too far.